If you speak up and you try to promote excellence in surgery and you try to object or push back against a liberal ideology, politics, ideology, call it what you will, in surgery, and I would love for there to be a groundswell of surgeons coming out saying, hey, wait a minute, what's going on in my profession?
Well, the fact that there isn't really bothers me because it's more than physical dexterity. You're counting on, as a patient, reason. You want a fact-based, logical physician, or else you could die. And so anyone who accepts clearly illogical, unreasonable suppositions and doesn't push back against them is basically involved in witchcraft, right? So if I could say to you something that is provably untrue and just on its face stupid, which is, a black female patient needs a black female doctor, it's like, what are you even saying? Show me the evidence. There is no evidence. It's crazy on its face. It's Nazi stuff. If you go along with that, then you've disqualified yourself because you're not a rational person. You're a witchcraft practitioner. So that just freaks me out. So you could say, well, good people are going along with this. Well, no, they're disqualified by the fact they are going along with it. That's as a patient, someone who's undergone 2 surgeries, is that a fair view, do you think?
Absolutely. Think about this. You're an intelligent person. You have probably a wealth of experience because of what you do. You weren't aware of racial concordance. And you ask any guy in the street about that, they're going to just look at you like, you have 2 heads. What the heck is that?
Well, is it true? And if it's true, how is that true? Again, the rest of us trust science, not because we trust the people who carry it out, but because the idea itself is inherently reasonable. Prove it or I don't believe it. Right. The burden of proof is on the practitioner, the scientist, the physician, the surgeon. And the whole system is based on that. If you can't prove it, then you can't know it. I thought that's science, right?
Well, that's what they call evidence-based medicine, which is...
Well, right.
Yeah.
But that's all medicine should be evidence-based medicine. And if it's not evidence-based medicine, it's not really medicine, it's witchcraft. So it freaks me out that the average doctor, average surgeon would for a second go along with this.
Well, think about it from this standpoint, too. Think about for example, Celia Nelson, the female Jamaican black surgeon that was on the Zoom call with me. She's worked as hard as anybody to get to where she is. She's an excellent surgeon. She's been through, she's experienced racism. She'll tell you flat out, when she first arrived there, people wouldn't mistake her for, asked her to get a cup of coffee in the surgeon lab,
right.
Those sorts of things. And she also noticed that sometimes when she'd walk into a examining room in the emergency room, that the look she would get was, who is this? Is this someone good? And she's worked through all that. Okay, she's worked through that. She just put her head down. She worked hard, and now she says what happens is when she goes into the ER, that patient has already heard from multiple staff what a wonderful surgeon they're getting. That she's going to be in there to see them. So. She's earned her place, okay? But think how unfair it is for the people coming up now, the minority, if you will, surgeons that have to face this idea when they go into a room, that person may look at them and say, gee, is this a DEI hire or is this a person that really—
I think everyone thinks that.
That went through, that got here because of their excellence, because of their excellent academic performance in college and medical school, because of their excellent performance in their residency, because they met all the standards, the standards that everyone should have to meet? Or am I getting someone who's a little bit less because of this? And
of course
that's
you're getting
part of the
someone
unfairness
less.
of it.
You're getting someone less, overwhelmingly, and that's obvious. And it has nothing to do with race, by the way. It's that preferences are always destructive of excellence. So if you tell me that you're the CEO of a company that your family owns and you got the job because you're the first son, my first assumption is they lowered standards to make you CEO. Right? It's obvious. And so if I have a black female surgeon, my first assumption will be this person had to meet lower standards because the school or the certifying board was so anxious to say we have a black female surgeon. And of course, it's unfair to the individual, but then the whole system is unfair. So should you be shocked that it produces unfair results? No. It's unfair.
It is unfair on the face of it and in practice and every other possible way.
Yes.
They think about anti-racism that was so, I think, despicable was it said that, you cannot be against racism. You have to be for this whole anti-racism shtick. So
attacking whites.
Yeah. So, if you claim to be not a racist, that's a racist statement. I mean, talk about the.
But why would anyone go? Of course. I mean, it's a Chinese finger trap.
Yeah.
The harder you pull to get out, the more stuck you are. Right. But why would anybody? You're a surgeon. Like, you're at the very pinnacle of our system, like the science-based, reason-based civilization that we've built, which we consider superior to, like, to the witchcraft-based societies of the rest of the world. How in the world could you sit and let this happen? Anybody, any surgeon?
Well, I'll tell you why I did it. I was too busy. I had my head in the sand.
Well, you're the anomaly. You actually stood up and got banned for standing up. I'm just saying, what about all your colleagues?
I'm fortunate in the sense that I was able to get through a career, and I'm at the twilight of my career. No, actually, at the end of my career. I have nothing to lose, Tucker. I mean, they can't hurt me. So I got many messages, private messages, which I can't access any longer, from surgeons, including minority surgeons that said,
sure,
we agree with you, but we can't speak up because we're going to get pushed back. We're going to be called, Uncle Toms or racist or whatever if we agree with the premise that you're putting out there. I don't have much to lose.
It's the time of year we focus on the people who matter most in our lives. And if there's one way to show your family, the people you love, that you love them, it's by protecting their health and their safety. And a really obvious way to do that is by preparing for unpredicted moments. And there are a lot of those. Breakdown in supply chains, overwhelmed hospitals, natural disasters, wars. Whatever happens next, you can't see it coming, but you can be prepared for most of it. And that's why a JACE case works. A JACE case is a personal supply of prescribed emergency medications. So if things fall apart, you're okay. If there's an unexpected global disruption, you can protect yourself and your loved ones. So this February, show them you care. Get the JACE case today. You'll have the right meds on hand when you need them. You only need them once. You ought to have them. No, I mean, of course, I know that you're describing the real answer. That is the answer. But it's just hard to let people like that off the hook. If you work in some, normal company, it's one thing. But if you're a surgeon, you understand that lowering standards results in the deaths of people. The stakes are just the highest in any part of our society. You have the highest stakes. So sure, it could hurt your career. Sure, it could make you unpopular. Sure, they might call you names, Uncle Tom or whatever. But you balance that against the deaths of innocents, and you think, I have to say something, don't you? And if you don't,
that's where I found myself.
Then I can tell.
Yeah.
And bless you. But if you decide, people will die, but my career is more important, or not being called names is more important, then you're kind of a monster, aren't you?
I don't want to say that.
Well, I do. I do. I think that if you give the power that surgeons have, the power to cut people open unsupervised, and someone dies, and you're the surgeon, you're like God in the operating room. You have that power. In exchange for that power, you have to hold yourself to the highest moral standards. Don't you?
I agree with that. You'll get no argument from me.
Who has more power than a surgeon? Yeah. Nobody.
Yeah. In that immediate moment, nobody does.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, actual power, not theoretical power.
No.
A surgeon has more power than the president. He can cut open a person if the person's unconscious. He has total control over his operating room. Correct me if I'm wrong in any of this. And
the captain of the ship, basically.
Unquestioned, right? So, and he has a life in his hands. Like actual, not theoretical, actual, beating heart person. And so that person has to be of just the highest moral caliber, or else innocents die. I mean, that's my view.
Anything which works against that, you have to fight. I think you have to work against that. It's disconcerting to me. I have to say, maybe I could use stronger terms, but I get a lot of private affirmation from colleagues, from surgeons. I don't get a lot of public affirmation for that very reason, because some of them are older and don't want to deal with the blowback, the repercussions, and the recrimination that can occur. Some of them, a few agree with the whole situation, crazy as it may be. all the DEI and so forth. And most of them were kind of like me. They were just going along and too busy taking care of their patients to the best of their ability.
I understand that.
And I've been doing this for 38 years, and it's really not until about 3 or 4 years ago that I popped my head above the water, so to speak, and looked around and said, oh my gosh, the landscape out there has really changed. This is not the field of medicine that I went into. And, you'd like to think when you've devoted your life to a career, a profession, that you're going to leave it a little better than you got it. I built my practice on the shoulders of the people that went before. And I have a very strong sense of responsibility that I have to honor the traditions and the efforts on my behalf to get me to where I was. And you want to think that you've done somewhat the same. Now, I wasn't a professor, I wasn't a researcher, but in taking care of patients, I've always tried to honor the efforts of the people that trained me and feel like I could go off. Well, I've got a generation behind me now. I've got a daughter who's a physician. I've got a son-in-law, her husband, who's a physician. And I feel a very strong sense of obligation to someday, when I can't do this anymore, to say, okay, I did the best I could to leave medicine in their hands better than I got it.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.